There was a big article in the New York Times about the 8 prestigious high schools in New York City. And the headline was only 7 black students got into New York's most selective high school out of 895 spots. But it's actually worse than that as we go into this. Now, the New York school system actually is predominantly black and Hispanic by 70%. And out of the 70%, the parents that are representing these children are taxpayers. And I was getting emails from brothers and sisters over there in New York, and they were saying, wait a minute, if our children cannot get into these prestigious schools, then why is my tax dollars going to help pay for that? Which is a legitimate thing to say, because why is it black children can't get into these schools? Now, these schools have a rigorous math and English test. And they say kids study for years just to take these tests to get into these 8 particular schools. Now, they say from these schools, they can get into prestigious universities, like a lot of times your Ivy League universities going from these schools. So usually when you have these kind of schools, usually what go along with that? Privilege and money. Now, some folks we know pay their way into schools, pay their way into colleges, and then some folks actually earn their way in. Now, the folks that earn their way in, and if we look at what's happening with the black students, especially the Stuyvesant High School that they talking about, now, at one point in time, they allowed 13 black students into the school. Then a year after that, they only allowed 10. And then now what you see is 7. So they're constantly reducing the black children in these elite schools. Now, when you mention the black children, and some of them come from low income, in a capitalistic society, anything involving money is usually better. For instance, if you are in a higher tax bracket, you live in a particular area, the school's going to have more advantage than a school in a lower income area. Unfortunately. Now, schools should be the same everywhere. It should not be based on money. But unfortunately, in a capitalistic society, everything is based on how much you're making. And if you're not making enough, you're not going to get the advantage. Now, these kids that come from better environments, they have more money for tutors, etc. And I'm just kind of curious if the kids that were let in, the black children, do they come from an environment where their parents make a little bit more money than the average? Now, we see that they talk about the black children, but the overrepresentation of Asian kids in these schools is actually quite shocking to me. And also what's shocking is that in this system of racism and white supremacy, if black children was overrepresented in these schools over the white children, I'm gonna show you a graph where we will point this out, they would be raising holy hell, but they don't raise hell at all about the Asian kids being over them in anything. And in this system, Asian Americans aren't targeted like we are. They aren't sabotaged like we are. They're actually left alone. And when you're left alone, you could do great things, just like black folks. If we were actually left alone and we could develop our own communities, develop our own schools, develop our own banks, just kind of do what the Asian community has been allowed to do. I'm gonna use the word again, allowed to do. We would be in the same positions. But they won't leave us alone. If we try to say, let's bank in our own banks, they come in and have to say something about that. If we say, let's try to create schools, well, they'll say, well, that's segregation. We tried that already. But yet, you know, Asian community, Arab community, whoever else, got the Jewish community, got their own schools, their own banks, their own everything. And nobody tell them we tried that already. They only say that to black people. Understand what I'm saying? We perpetually losing in this country, especially with this capitalistic society, because many of us have, as you know, I heard a brother say last night, we're black, but a lot of us have a white mind. And due to that mind we have, we don't stand up for ourselves. We think we've actually made it, but yet we are kind of worse off today than we were for a very long time, even during the civil rights movement or prior to that. Now, the mayor, de Blasio, he was talking about the testing and kind of fooling with the testing a little bit. So these kids from the lower income communities that's smart, but they just don't have a chance to get access to certain tutoring where they can get a chance to get into these schools. But the Asian American groups and alumni was having a big issue with that because they said that if you affect the testing, that's going to stop Asian kids from getting into these schools. Now, also, they had Asian American groups that are suing Harvard University right now. They're suing them because they're saying Asians aren't getting in to Harvard based off of that personality test or something that Harvard has. Now, we noticing this is coming up a lot. Anything referencing to black people get something, you're hearing a lot of Asian lawsuits or them saying something. And let me say something to black folks. Understand something. Dr. John Henry Clark had told us we have no friends, none. You got to get out of trying to want a friend. You got to get out of caping for people. This is exactly what we have to get out of, because if you follow people's actions, and I told many of you this, follow the actions of people, watch what people do, then that's where their words matter or don't matter. It's just that simple. See, the Asian groups, the Asian people who's suing, they care about their kids. They want their kids to have an advantage. They can care less about you. They don't care about no equality or any of that. Any group, whether it's white folks, whoever else, they don't care about no equality. They just care about their people. But black people are fed a line about, oh, well, you should care about all people and we should do this. No, but they don't care about nobody else but their kids at the end of the day. And the thing is, with us as black people, everyone has come into this country and stepped on our backs to get ahead. And we still in this position to allow people to step on our backs. Everything that we fought for was civil rights, and even that immigration bill that was signed in '65, that came off of our fighting struggle. And then everyone come in and step on our backs. That's why a lot of people who are saying ADOS is basically saying we're not gonna let y'all step on our backs anymore. We sick of that crap. Everybody come in and step on our backs and then have no respect for us. But at the end of the day, nobody gonna respect nothing you step on. It's just that simple. Do you respect the welcome mat at your house? No, you don't, because you step on it every day. So we are the ones that have to stand up for ourselves and understand that we better fight for our community because we're losing out every single day. Now, if you look at these schools, let's put up a graph up. Now, you have Stuyvesant High School. Only 7 out of 895 students are black. Now, you look at Bronx High School of Science, 12 out of 803. Brooklyn Technical High School, 95 out of 825 are black. Brooklyn Latin School, only 57 out of 540 are black. Staten Island Technical School, 1 student out of 304 students are black. High School for Mathematics, Science, and Engineering at City College, 8 out of 165 are black. Queens High School for the Sciences at York College, 4 out of 142 are black. High School of American Studies at Lehman College, 6 out of 124 are black. And as you can see on this graph, Asians are overwhelmingly represented in these schools, and white folks aren't raising hell. That's always interesting to me. That's why, but you have to understand that back in the time period of Dr. King, they were labeled as the model minority. And they put that on them because they wasn't standing up and fighting for civil rights like that. So they kind of allowed them to get in and do their thing in this country, and they don't say anything, and they stay out of the way. They don't get involved with American politics too much. They really don't. They kind of just do their thing. And I've been around them enough to tell you they just live in their own little world. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to leave their communities or nothing at all. You know, they even have in one area here in Bel Air, in that area, they have a Houston Police Department, and it's their police officers there, the Asians. It's not black, white, or whatever else. Also, I just saw now they have a Muslim community patrol in the Muslim communities. But the moment that black people, in which I'm gonna get on that story about the Muslim community patrol, black people need to start patrolling their communities. And if they say something about it, then they need to sue. Because if they're allowing them to do it, then why black people can't patrol their communities? But what we're saying here with the area of education, education is extremely, extremely important. And I remember seeing pictures of our brothers and sisters walking to school with no shoes just so they can get an education. We have to make education number one, because knowledge is power. You cannot attain power without any kind of knowledge. And of course, they want us dumbed down. They want us not to know anything. That's what they want. And we can't focus our attention on stupidity. They would love for you just to know about what Cardi B got going on and what ratchet behavior she's doing. They would love for you to know about love and hip hop and all the little things that we focus our attention on. So what some rapper got going on or whatever. But you cannot attain any kind of power, especially in a capitalist society, focusing on that. We got to get education, because education is something that no one could take away from you. We have to build businesses. We have to build schools. We have to be self-sufficient. And the biggest thing that we have to do is stop allowing certain people, and we know who they are, trying to come in and tell us what to do, what to think, how to do whatever. And we actually responding to that, because they don't go tell Asians how to think. They don't go tell them what to do. They don't tell them about their banks. They don't tell them about their schools. They don't tell them about their grocery stores. They don't tell them about their restaurants. They don't tell them about anything. And they have all that in their communities. They even come into our communities and get their start. And then they go build up their own communities. That's another thing. Everyone, the Indian, the Asian, all of them get their start in the black communities. And instead of us putting aside our self-hate, and start unifying together and realizing our issues and problems and saying, look, we all we have in this world, no one is our friend, we could do much better. We actually had strong people in a code, we would be raising holy hell about these schools, especially our tax dollars going to this. If we would have to file some sort of lawsuits, but then the lawsuits would even be hard. Let me tell you why it'd be hard. Because this is what these schools will say. Hey, we can't say it's racial discrimination because mostly minorities are in these schools. See, this is why the words minorities and people of color is dangerous. Because if you look at what they're saying, they would actually be right. It is majority minorities, according to what minority is, which is non-white, in these schools. So it'd be hard to fight that they are being discriminatory, unless you're saying they're discriminatory against black people or they're not letting enough black students in. This is why we got to keep pushing. We're not minorities. We're not people of color. We are black. We are African American. Pick one. That's just kind of like where we're going to have to go with that and stick to that. But at the end of the day, everyone cares about their own community. They care about obtaining power for their community. And if you're not trying to do the same thing, you're going to get stepped on and passed over and anything else. I'm telling you, this is just more to come. They're gentrifying the black neighborhoods right there in New York, just like they're gentrifying them everywhere else. They displacing you all the time. It's because we aren't unified. We don't have a strict code that we live by. And we don't make people respect us politically. We don't make people respect us legally. We don't do any of that. So they see us as just prime picking right now. And this is why they would do this to our children and not allow our children in. Our children built a lot of these Ivy League colleges from slave labor, many of them. And yet they want to have issues with us trying to get in those places if we would choose to go there. Or if you look at certain areas of New York, like where Wall Street's at, that was a black area. That was a black township for freed slaves. But yet Wall Street is there. Certain places in where Central Park is at, that was a black, freed area. I mean, there's a lot of places that we were at, and yet they took the mess over. And that's why reparations is very important, because a lot of land was taken from black people that was given to black people to live at. But we as a community, looking at these school numbers and how we're hardly even getting into elite schools. And then what happens? This affects your income because the education you have affects the jobs you can get or even the opportunities in business that you can have with education. You can't even get in the door of some places without a proper education. Education is way more important than the next Cardi B record, the next Future record, or whoever else that you're listening to. It's more important than the Breakfast Club. It's more important than any of that. We got to seek education, people. We got to seek it. We can't be looking down on someone or calling someone an educated lame. I mean, think about it. We are the only group of people that use the terminology educated lame. I mean, we reward people in our community who don't want to seek that, don't want to seek education, don't, some people, don't even want to read in our community. I mean, come on, that affects the group. And if we're going to progress, we got to seek education, folks, and fight when we see things like this happening, because no other group going to allow their kids not to get in. They just not going to allow this. And if we keep silent about this, you got a lot of rioters out there in New York. I know you do. I've been out there. Some good people. Y'all have to stand up against this in the conscious community. You got definitely the brothers and sisters in the nation. Everybody got to get together and talk about why our kids aren't getting in these schools, especially with our tax dollars going that way. But leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this particular story. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if we as a community don't take a stand in this system and fight for our slice of the pie, I'm telling you, we won't have anything, because all these other groups is coming in and they will take every bit of what we have. We're going to be looking like we stupid. But at the end of the day, it will be our fault because we didn't take a stand and fight for the things that we actually built in this country.